dripped with disappointment as I walked into our weekly family dinner. Maybe if you'd worn the suit I picked out instead of those cheap clothes. I glanced down at my cheap outfit, a deliberately understated designer ensemble that cost more than their mortgage payment. But they didn't need to know that. Not yet. The interview went fine, I said quietly, taking my seat at the far end of the table, the designated spot for the family disappointment. Fine doesn't pay bills, Dad chimed in, not looking up from his phone. Your sister Caroline just made partner at her law firm. That's what success looks like. Caroline preened from her place of honor next to Mom. Actually, I just closed a huge merger deal. Anderson Tech is acquiring my client's company. I bit back a smile. Anderson Tech, my company, though they didn't know that. The acquisition she was so proud of. I'd signed those papers this morning right before my failed interview. See. Mom gestured at Caroline with her wine glass. That's a real career. Not whatever startup nonsense you're chasing. My phone buzzed silently, a message from my CFO. Times Square billboard goes live at 8 p.m. All media outlets confirmed. Speaking of careers, Caroline smirked. My firm is hiring paralegals. Even you could probably handle that. Dad finally looked up. That's a good idea. Time to stop this entrepreneur fantasy and get a real job. If they only knew that my fantasy had just become the youngest female CEO to ring the opening bell at the stock exchange. That their precious Caroline's law firm was about to become one of my subsidiaries. I'll think about it, I said, checking the time. 7:55 p.m. What's to think about? Mom demanded. You're a disappointment to this family. No career, no achievements, nothing to show for yourself. Maybe she's right. I stood up, gathering my things. I should go check out some real career options. Running away again? Caroline called after me. Times Square is lit up with my merger deal right now. That's what success looks like, little sister. I paused at the door. You know what? You're right. Let's all go see Times Square. Right now. What? Mom frowned. The Anderson Tech announcement. You want to see real success, right? Let's go watch it together. They exchanged confused looks but agreed, probably hoping to humiliate me further by showing off Caroline's achievement. The drive to Times Square was filled with Caroline's boasting about her role in the merger. How she'd orchestrated everything. How she was the rising star of corporate law. If she only knew she'd been negotiating with my representatives, following my company's timeline. We arrived just as the massive screens began to change. 7:59 p.m. Watch, Caroline said smugly. My name's going to be up there with the merger announcement. The screens flickered and suddenly my face filled every billboard. Breaking news. Tech prodigy Sarah Chin, CEO of Anderson Tech, acquires major software company in historic deal. The crowd around us gasped and pointed. Camera flashes went off everywhere. Caroline's coffee cup slipped from her hand, shattering on the sidewalk. That's. Mom stammered. Me, I said quietly. That's me. The screens of Times Square continued to flash with my image and the breaking news. Caroline stood frozen, her perfectly applied makeup couldn't hide her shock. Mom gripped Dad's arm so hard her knuckles turned white. This is impossible, Caroline whispered. I've been working with Anderson Tech's legal team for months. Legal team, I corrected her. They reported directly to me. Every meeting, every negotiation, every detail you thought you were controlling, I was orchestrating all of it. A group of business reporters spotted us and rushed over, cameras flashing. Miss Chin, can you comment on the acquisition? Is it true you're the youngest female CEO to complete $1 billion merger? What's your response to being named Forbes 30 Under 30? Mom's social climbing instincts kicked in. She started to step forward, ready to claim proud mother status, but I held up my hand. I'll handle my own press, Mom. Just like I've handled my own business for the past 5 years while you called me a disappointment. Turning to the reporters, I switched into CEO mode. The acquisition represents a strategic expansion of Anderson Tech's capabilities. We're excited to integrate their software division into our existing operations. That's my merger. Caroline burst out. I negotiated that deal. The reporters turned their cameras to her, then back to me questioningly. This is my sister, I smiled coolly. She's a junior partner at Stevens & Blake. One of the many law firms we employed for this transaction. Junior partner? Caroline sputtered. I made full partner. Actually, I pulled out my phone and pulled up some documents. Your promotion was contingent on closing this merger. A merger that's now owned by your little sister's company. Dad found his voice. All this time, those failed interviews were board meetings, investment pitches, acquisition negotiations. I gestured to the towering screens above us. While you were telling me to get a real job, I was building a tech empire. More reporters arrived. The crowd grew larger. Someone from CNBC was asking for an exclusive. Ms. Chen, your company's valuation just hit $50 billion, a Wall Street Journal reporter called out. Any comment on being one of the youngest self-made billionaires? Mom swayed slightly. Billion? Would you excuse me? I said to my family. I have a press conference to conduct. Oh, and Caroline. I turned back to my shell-shocked sister. About that merger you're so proud of? Check your email. Your firm's services are no longer required. You can't do that, she protested. I can, and I did. Anderson Tech will be using different legal representation going forward. I smiled. Maybe you can apply for that paralegal position you recommended to me. As I walked toward the waiting reporters, I heard Mom calling after me. Sarah, honey, we should celebrate as a family. Family. I paused, letting the Times Square lights illuminate my face. Like when you celebrated my failures. When you made me sit at the end of the table. When you called me a disappointment. The cameras were rolling, capturing every word. But now that my name is in lights, I continued, now that I'm a billionaire, suddenly you want to claim me? That's not how family works. That's not how success works. I nodded to my security team, who stepped forward to create a barrier between me and my stunned family. If you'll excuse me, I addressed the reporters, I have an empire to run. The next morning I sat in my penthouse office at Anderson Tech Tower, watching the sunrise over the city. Every news channel was running the story, my face splashed across financial networks worldwide. The video of last night's Times Square revelation had gone viral. My assistant's voice came through the intercom. Miss Chen, your family is in the lobby. Your mother is trying to live stream from the entrance, claiming she's visiting her successful daughter. I pulled up the security feeds. Mom was perfectly coiffed, clearly dressed for social media photos. Caroline was still in yesterday's designer suit, looking haunted. Dad clutched a folder of what appeared to be business proposals. Your sister is also telling everyone she was the mastermind behind the merger, my assistant added. Send them up, I said. But first, activate Protocol Alpha. Minutes later, they were escorted into my office. Their expressions shifted from demanding to awestruck as they took in the sprawling space, the floor-to-ceiling windows, the view of their tiny law firm building far below. Sarah, darling, Mom rushed forward, phone camera already recording. We're so proud, Dash. Stop recording, I cut her off. In fact, hand over all phones. My security team collected their devices. Mom looked lost without her social media lifeline. Sit. I gestured to the chairs facing my desk. Let's discuss your recent activities. Activities? Dad asked nervously. I pressed a button and screens descended from the ceiling, displaying their social media posts and messages from the past 24 hours. Caroline, let's start with you. 3 interviews claiming you orchestrated the merger. 7 social media posts taking credit for my company's success. 1 particularly interesting LinkedIn article about being the legal genius behind Anderson Tech. I was just Dash. Lying, I finished for her. And potentially violating several NDAs your firm signed. Would you like to see the penalties? She slumped in her chair as I displayed the financial implications. Mom, I continued, switching screens. 42 posts claiming inside knowledge of Anderson Tech, 15 live streams from our lobby calling yourself a tech mom. And my personal favorite, trying to sell exclusive access to your CEO daughter for speaking engagements. Mom's perfectly applied makeup couldn't hide her flush of shame. And Dad, I turned to him. Those business proposals you're clutching? The ones you've been showing to my competitors? Did you really think I wouldn't know? Princess, I was just trying to profit from my success. After years of calling me a failure. I stood up, walking to the windows. Let me be clear about how this works now. I pressed another button. The screens filled with legal documents. These are cease and desist orders. Social media bans. Legal injunctions. One signature from me and your attempts to capitalize on my success become very, very expensive. You wouldn't, Caroline whispered. We're family. Family. I turned back to them. Like when you made me eat at the end of the table. When you called me a disappointment. When you tried to force me into becoming a paralegal. I walked to my desk and picked up 3 folders. Here are your options. Mom, you'll delete all social media posts about me and sign an NDA. Caroline, you'll publicly retract your merger claims and resign from your firm. Dad, you'll surrender those business proposals and sign a non-compete agreement. Or what? Caroline challenged weakly. Or I'll show everyone the real story. Every mocking text. Every family dinner where you belittled me. Every social media post calling me a failure. I have them all. I sat back down, straightening my Chanel suit. Oh, and one more thing. That end of the table you made me sit at? I bought the house. The table too. In fact, I smiled. I own the company that owns your law firm's building, Caroline. Amazing what a disappointment can accomplish. They sat in stunned silence as I pushed the folders toward them. Sign now, or the next time my face is on Times Square, it'll be with a very different family story. One by one they signed. As security escorted them out, Mom turned back. Sarah, please, we can fix this. No, Mom, you can't fix this. But you can watch from a distance as your failed daughter continues to succeed. Just remember, success isn't about who claims you when you're winning. It's about who believed in you when you were struggling. The door closed behind them. I turned back to the city view, my city now. Sometimes the best revenge isn't proving people wrong. It's succeeding